Hey there, beautiful joy seeker, and welcome back to the I Am Changing podcast. I'm your host, Kaz Humphreys, and I'm a behavioral change specialist. In today's episode, I am feeling very privileged and delighted to be talking to the incredible Fiona van Lochem from Butterfly Lane. Fiona, welcome.
Thanks, Kaz.
Fiona, you describe yourself as a soul awakener. Tell me more about that. I want the listeners to hear about that.
Okay, so it was funny when you asked that question. It was like, well, how do I describe the thing? Because
What you intuitively know. How do I describe that?
how do I describe the intuitive thing? And the thing is that I'm not a soul awakener as such. I'm a soul reminder, really,
Ooh,
because we all have that connection to self,
yes.
to who we truly are in the core of this.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just need a little bit of a poke
Yeah.
just to remember, oh, that's right. It's not just the day to day, the running around with the kids, the job, the looking after the pets, the family, you know what I mean? It's not all those things.
Yeah.
There's more to me than just that. And
Yes.
so I guess that's what I would class as a soul awakener is everybody is an awakener to their soul, but
Yes.
they sometimes need a little nudge to remember that.
I love that. So Fiona's business name is Butterfly Lane, and Fiona is both a rapid transformal therapist. Now, I know what that is. I know what RTT is, but I'd love for you to explain that to my audience.
Yep. So rapid transformational therapy was developed by Marissa Peer, and it's a form of hypnotherapy, and it's very multi-layered in
Mm,
the fact that we go through life, right? We have things that we want to do, achievements we want to have, or aspects of our personality we want to express, but there's something that holds us back, and we can't necessarily identify what that is.
mm,
So as a form of hypnotherapy, you go into a deeply relaxed state. You go into your subconscious, which is your vast library of all that is, of everything you've ever experienced, absolutely everything. And your subconscious mind helps you uncover what it is that is your limiting belief, that thing that's holding you back. And it's usually the most innocuous thing that you would never have thought of, that's something that somebody said or did that made you sit back and go, oh, that was awful. I don't want to experience that again. And the mind, being black and white, goes, oh, okay, registers that in your vast library of subconscious, and then pulls that into place when a situation arises that has that similar feeling. And
mm.
it goes, oh, we've got to protect, we've got to protect. And so, self-sabotage and all those things come into play. So RTT really is just a way to access that and to reframe it. It's all about reframing. It's very positive, empowering, uplifting. As I say to my clients, um, I'm just directing traffic, you're driving the bus. Because a lot
Yeah.
of people have this huge fear around hypnotherapy
I
that,
know. They think they're going to make you cluck like a chicken.
exactly, and it's nothing to do with that. It's just being relaxed enough for the conscious mind to take a little bit of a hike over here and for your subconscious to come in and say, right, thank you for listening. Here's what I'd like to remind you of. And all they do is pretty much change the perspective, so they take their power back. And it is so amazing. I've had such amazing transformations with
Mm.
clients. One session, a lot of people go, oh, you just can't get stuff done in one session.
Yeah,
One
you
session and
can.
I don't see them again.
Yeah.
So it's great for them, not a great business model, but yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. And it's really, everyone should have at least one session.
Oh, I agree. Kinesiology is the same when we go into the physical, mental, emotional, energetic stresses of life.
Yep.
You can zero down into that causative thing that happened back when you were, say, four. Same thing. It's the same thing. The subconscious stores. I liken that when you're talking about our subconscious library is enormous. Think of that scene in the Matrix where they go to get a gun and it's just this warehouse where the lights just keep turning on. Your subconscious records every emotion you have felt in your body.
Yep.
It records everything.
Everything, even things that you have seen flashing past. So when you're driving a car and
Yeah.
there's a billboard up, your mind doesn't register it, but your subconscious does. It's all in there,
It's all in there, folks.
which
It's
means
all
you
in
have the
there.
answer. You just have to allow yourself to,
And if I feel like I blow my own mind when I describe that to people, and the enormity of what the subconscious mind stores
yeah,
is beyond our comprehension. You can flick a book and then know where to go for the references. It's insane. So,
yep.
wow, I like your description of RTT. That was good. Fiona is also an emotional body code coaching. Let's talk a little bit about that.
So the emotion code, the body code, again, it comes back to energy, right? Every emotion is an energy, emotion, energy in motion. So that can become stored in your physical body and it can become stored in your energy field, right? So it's what they call trapped emotions. We've had an experience, we've processed a lot of it, but the energy of that, and there's so many different aspects, like it could be something that you absorbed from somebody, or something that is still resonating, like when you ring a bell and it still has that vibration. Something that stops you recovering from something, so there's an interference in there. Could be something to do with your meridians, which are your energy channels that all of your energy flows through, that an acupuncturist will put those little needles into. Like there's so many layers to it. So I do that remotely. I don't have people come in into my healing space. I do that remotely because then I can tune into what their energy body is saying to me. And I know that sounds a bit weird and woo-woo for some people, but it's no different to connecting to something on the internet. We're all energy, we can connect that way.
Yeah.
And so I can bypass what their conscious mind thinks they need and actually access what their bodies, which is like kinesiology.
Exactly the same. Exactly the same.
Yep, using muscle testing. So I use myself to muscle test and get the answers and go through it
I
that way.
found myself describing a similar scenario to someone the other day who was going to a 30-year reunion, and they were stressed about having to meet their arch nemesis, and just picturing this person who used to bully them gave them a sensation. And I'm not going to say it was anger or it was this or is that. I call it a sensation so that your subconscious doesn't feel threatened by it.
Yeah.
But when they were in the room with amongst all of their old friends, sharing laughs, catching up, and then the person who's their trigger walked in the room, everyone felt it. He was saying to me, everyone's hackles went up because this person bullied absolutely everybody and the vibe. And so this is how I'm able to explain that's the energy associated with all of those unresolved feelings. It's palpable. You can feel that when someone walks in the room 100 meters away. If your vision's that good, mine's not. I have to see them up close. I'm like Mr. Magoo these days. It's hilarious. And Fiona, for everyone who's listening and not watching the video, she's killing herself laughing. But you can feel that, you walk into a room and something wrong has been said, and everyone is too afraid to speak up or speak their truth and go, hang on, you've crossed the line, or this is uncomfortable, that awkward pause.
Absolutely.
That's the energy of discomfort that can't come out of your mouth, but people will soon pick up on it.
Oh, they do. And that's the thing, is we have language for it. You could cut the air with a knife, but when you say, oh, we are energy and we can feel energy, people go, no. But we know that. We can feel that. You can feel when someone's had an argument when you walk in.
Yeah. You know when someone gives you the stink eye.
Oh, absolutely. And even through language, though, we are that connected that we can pick it up in the language. We can pick it up in, across the internet.
Yeah.
You share something and you can feel how they're responding to it. If you allow yourself to tune in by cutting out all of the noise of the busyness of life.
Yeah.
And that's the soul. That's the truth of who we are.
That kind of leads me into my next question is, how would you encourage, steer, lead someone to become quiet, to become present?
To let go of their labels.
How does one do that? It's
is
like the $1 million question, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's the fear of letting go of that, because then we don't know who we are, right? And it's an ego thing, not an ego from I'm big and better than everybody else, but it's our identity. We identify with our story, right? So we tell our story. When we meet people, we say, we introduce ourselves as a soul awakener. Well, I'm not a soul awakener. I'm so much more and different to that. But, you know, we go to an event and somebody says, oh, what do you do? And people list off their label of achievements, right? And often they're things that we want to highlight that make us feel good about ourselves. And we've been through so many things in our lives, but we're not going to list all the things. No, we're not going to say, I'm a fourth grader. We have been a fourth grader, but that's not important. But we'll say, oh, I've got a college education in blah, 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 right? Or I've got this certificate or whatever.
Yeah.
Because that defines us. And then our story, and we start telling people about things in our life, and it puts us in a box, right? And so then people can relate to us according to that box. But the problem with that is that it limits us. It limits the bandwidth from which how other people can receive us. So if I tell you certain things about myself or my past or my history, you will receive it according to what you've experienced in life, and you will see me in that particular box, right? The other thing is that when we live through our story, is that every time we retell our story, remembering that our mind is a black and white thing, we bring the past in because we're telling something that's happened in the past because we think it's relevant to our identity. We draw that in, and then the body goes, oh, it's happening. Just like, you know, these people at the reunion, right? We're being bullied. No, you're not. But because you're in the story of the past, the mind is going, oh, we're here. Okay. And the body automatically reacts to that, and that biochemical cascade kicks in and you're in there.
Yeah.
Same as when you start getting anxious about something's going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow isn't here yet, but when you're in that space, you're bringing that energy in. And again, the body's going, oh, we're here, and it'll start to respond. So allowing yourself to let go of those labels and allowing yourself to try and put yourself into a position where you're not always relying on your story to help you identify with who you are. It's a big shift, you know.
Massive. That's a massive shift. I want to add to that for the audience's sake that Fiona was just talking about it's nature's human programming. It's natural for everybody to have their own way of sorting and putting people into a box and placing a label on it. We all have our own mechanism for that based on our genetics and our first 7 years of exposure to how we were parented and what our environment was like.
Yeah.
So not only do we have our own way of telling our story, but everyone receiving our story has their own way of putting us into a judgment box to then determine, oh, there's crazy Karen and she does crazy things with arms and legs, but I always feel better afterwards. And this is Fiona and she's talking about energy and that kind of makes sense. And so we all have our own way of responding or reacting to the information coming at us. And I'm finding we're almost arriving at this conversation at a place of, what if you could just observe without reacting? Is that one way of taking the label off and just observing someone in their full flight of whatever it is they're doing at the reunion and going, why are you letting this bully still have power? I'm going to do my own thing, and maybe it's my turn to splash my drink on his face, but it costs $20 for a cocktail, so I'm going to drink it and have a good time.
Well, that's it. It's about looking at things as an experience rather than an identity, right? I've had the experience of being a sister, a wife, a mother, an ex-wife. Do you know what I mean? Rather than this is who I am.
Yes.
Because if we identify with the experience, then if an experience is removed from us, that's when people have that identity crisis, right? Like someone who's an amazing, strong, fit athlete suddenly has some huge injury and they can't perform athletically anymore. And suddenly they've got this huge, well, who am I? What am I here for? You're here to rediscover yourself outside of that. We are so much more than that experience that we're having, but we think that's who we are because of how our world has been structured. And we're in this critical moment of rediscovery at the moment, where everything is pushing buttons and nudging us and going, well, are you really that? Or isn't there more to it? And a lot of people are feeling there's something going on, but they can't necessarily name what it is. That's like the expansiveness of who they are, giving them a nudge and saying, hey, you are more than who you think you currently are. Move out of your own way and allow that connection to happen again.
Yeah. It's interesting, the time of this recording, we are, what are we, 5 retrograde planets, and the Lionsgate portal has opened this last weekend, and the Schumann resonance is through the roof. So energetically right now, what Fiona's talking about is, that there's a space that we're in at the moment where change is happening all around us, whether it's in your home, in your community, on the globe. You look at what's happening between countries. There's energetic forces around that are influencing how we live our life, especially if you do things like watch the news or listen to commercial radio, and you start to think about, and I'm saying this more for the audience than, because Fiona's nodding her head saying yes, yes, we are influenced even by words or print media. Just seeing photos of war-torn countries or missiles in the air or the threats of tsunamis or nuclear war, whatever, can invoke a reaction.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's by design, because if we're reacting from a space of fear, then we're not reacting from a space of love and compassion, right? And even though we have love and compassion for the things that are happening to the people, our instinctual reaction is to go into fear. And when we're in fear, we are never in our power.
Yeah.
So,
Totally agree.
And we are all vibration, we're energy, we're color, we're light, we're sound. We look at something like water and we can accept that it can be in different states, a solid, a gas, a liquid.
Yep.
But we look at ourselves and oh no, we're just a solid. No, we're not. We're a vibration. If we go right down to the cellular level, there's a vibration that's happening that makes us appear solid. But really, we're just a bunch of cells vibrating that's holding together the energy that we are. That's the core of who we are, know. And the fascinating thing is that these things have been proven scientifically. At conception, there's a spark of light that happens. The meridians, which we talked about before, those energy channels, they're actually laid down in utero before the physical body has been formed around it, and that explains why people might have what we call phantom limb syndrome. They've lost a limb, but they can still feel the pain or feel an itch, because energetically it's still there. Physically it's not, but the energy is still there. So we are energy first before we are physical, but we tend to only see ourselves as physical, and that limits how we perceive ourselves in the world and why what's happening energetically everywhere is impacting us, and we might not have the words for it.
I often will suggest homework for clients who are really struggling with what we're talking about. Go and watch Star Wars, where you see them in their energy orbs, and they use the force, channel the force, be the light, get into your energy bubble, and just do you.
Just do you. That's
just
it. And
you.
The thing is, like, if we limit ourselves to, okay, I'm only this person in this life and I only get one life, okay? So I would like people to allow themselves to be a little bit more curious about things, to allow themselves to see, well, what's the possibility? Rather than, no, I only have this belief. Well, be a little bit more curious about it. So I'd like to give an example. I had a client who came for, or who booked in for an emotion code, a body code session, which is the energy healing at a remote distance. And her issue was that she had night terrors, which started when her daughter was born, and she would spring up out of bed and grab her child. Now, at this point, when she had made this appointment, she had been through a cycle of these night terrors, then it had stopped and then it had started again. And her daughter at this stage was 12. So this was 12 years of her cycling through this. what presented for her was a timeline loop that she was stuck in. Okay, so when we just consider ourselves to be this version of who we are, and we have this issue, we'd be looking at, well, is there some trauma in my life that I haven't dealt with? Or is there something, emotional thing I need to look at, or whatever? Or you could go to a psychologist and talk through it, but not coming to a conclusion. Because as it turned out, it was actually linked to a past life, right? Now, there will be people that will go, I don't believe in past lives. And perhaps this client didn't believe in past lives either, but it's what presented. So in this first past life that presented, she was in a village with dome huts, dirt floor. I could sort of see it in my mind's eye. I don't always get that, but this particular one I did. And the village was being raided. And she was standing behind her mother, and her mother was protecting her. She absorbed emotions from her mother, and her mother saved her life. Her mother didn't live, but she saved her life in that. The next scene that was taken to was another past life where she was living in Japan. She was a unwed single mother, and that brought a lot of shame on the family. So she was removed from the family, and she lived in an isolated spot in poverty on the side of a hill on a stilt house. Okay. And one night there was a huge storm, and there was a mudslide, and the whole lot of the buildings went down, and her stilt house went down, and she tried to save her baby. Couldn't save her baby, so her baby perished. Come this lifetime, she's just who she is. She's a mother, she has her child, and all of a sudden she's having this panic about saving her child. So as it turns out, in that first life, her mother in that life is her daughter in this life. And her mother had saved her. In the second life, she hadn't saved her daughter. So they've cycled around again, and that's part of the soul contracts that we have, where she's the mother again and her daughter is the daughter again. And this time, she didn't need to save her. She just needed to love her. And as soon as that was recognised on an energetic level, it all stopped.
Yeah.
So if she'd just seen herself as the person that she is, and didn't allow herself to look beyond it, and she didn't need to because it was energetically speaking to her anyway, she wouldn't have been able to uncover that. So it's just a way for people to go, well, that's interesting. I don't believe it. But there's more to us than what's presenting.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'd love for the listeners to also know that whilst things might not be in your belief system, if they're in the practitioner's belief system, we can find. So some things in this life you may not believe.
Yep.
I know kinesiology we can muscle test back 7 generations, but sometimes I can go more depending on what modality I'm using. But you think about it, you are an egg inside your grandmother.
Yes.
And when you understand that, then even if past life isn't on your realm, you can still agree that you were an egg inside your mother that became your mother, and you're an egg inside her that then became you. So whatever your grandmother experienced can have a direct impact on your mother as an egg and you as an egg, and impact the information that is then translated through DNA replication when at the time of conception and fertilization.
Absolutely. We pass things on genetically. So we're passing things on genetically. We're also passing on the stuff that happened that formed the genes the way they did, 200 years ago, 10 generations ago. Yeah. And we pick that up because, as we said before, we're cells, we're vibrating at that level, that information, it's like a Morse code. Our body is tapping it out. Here, listen, this is something that happened to great-great-great-great-great-grandma, and you're still feeling the effects of it.
Yeah.
So, when someone goes to a healer of whatever description, they're not only healing themselves, but they're healing their generation, and that's powerful.
That is beyond powerful. I also want to add
Everything
for our
doing.
audience too that we're not just a meat suit. We're not just a body. We actually have these energy layers outside of us. And this has been scientifically proven by the Heart Math Institute, where they can measure the resonance of a beating heart. Is it 6 feet or 6 meters out of the body?
Yep, something
So
like that.
think of that as, if you use that Star Wars analogy again, you think of yourself as an energy bubble. The etheric template, or those energy layers, actually hold the ingredient or the recipe of how your body is run. So not only does the body is the expression of the energy recipe, when your predecessors, your ancestors have had experiences like the Great Depression, like the Holocaust, car accident, whatever it is that's been significant, that's impregnated at a DNA level in the cells of our body. So regardless of your belief system about past lives, it's actually proven in the Western medicine science perspective anyway, just in epigenetics.
That's it. That's it. And that that 6 foot, that 1.5 meters that we radiate out, we've all heard that, stay 1.5 meters away from each other.
Yeah.
Just
Tiny little energy bubbles. Just do you.
you don't interact energetically with anybody else.
Mm.
Well, okay, why not? There's power in us connecting. So,
yeah. There's massive power in us connecting energetically, coming together. Humans are meant to be in collections of little tribes. And this is where, social media, I think sometimes, and our foreign news has taken us to a place where we get instant news updates of what's happening around the world. But when you look at the science of psychology, we're really only meant to know, and we've got capacity to understand what's happening in our immediate tribe.
Yeah.
Of up to 150 people. So your immediate family, your extended family and friends.
Yep.
Traditionally, as cave people, that's what we're wired to be able to deal with. What's happening in and amongst our tribe, and come together to create neutrality or negotiate or harmonize. We are not capable of, or we don't have the capacity to be able to process and understand what's happening on another continent or another, like in a different hemisphere, because we're just not wired to be able to then say, well, how do you look at Iran and Iraq, we're not wired because that's not in our experience of our ancestors. The experience of my ancestors is very much Great Depression. They came out on the boats as convicts, and they go back through Scotland and England, and that's what I know to be true. It's now that we have an infiltration as a multicultural society, things are evolving and changing very rapidly now, and we're introducing different things into our energetic field and into our DNA that's perhaps was not, I won't say wasn't designed, but it's creating lots of shifts.
Absolutely. And that's why it's important to come back to self, to come back to center, to reconnect with who you truly are, not the identity that you think you are, because otherwise we become overwhelmed. We see these awful things happening in other countries, and we become, our compassion and our love for our fellow beings, we want to help them, but we can't. We're not in that country. There's nothing we can do, yet we're feeling the experience. As we said before, all of a sudden our mind's going, oh my God, this is happening. No, it's not happening, but we're experiencing that.
Yeah.
Whereas you said in the previous, we would have lived in some tiny little village in a valley, and on the other side of the mountains, there might have been another village. We didn't know what was going on in that particular village. We didn't have to process all of that stuff.
No.
So it's not about being ignorant of what's happening in the world. It's not about not having compassion for other people and the traumas that they're going through, but there's only so much load that you can carry.
That's right. That's where I was trying to go with that, is you can observe, you can be curious, I wonder how that might feel, but you can't take it on
That's it.
Because
Yeah.
when we take it on, that's when the overwhelm and the anxiety kicks in, and we just don't have capacity. We're busy enough with our own stuff and our own tribe, our own community, our own state government. Let's not talk about that, because that's going to start
Right,
swearing.
Fiona,
I'm
I don't
really
know
trying to
your
behave myself
conversation.
today. Anywho, moving right along, I've got a question.
Uh,
How would you encourage a client to become curious, to discover more about who they are, their identity? What might be some of the tools that you use?
Okay, that's a good question. I guess it's about allowing themselves to see themselves outside of their story. Because when we have a thought, we can observe that thought, which means we're not the thought, we're not the brain, right?
Mm,
We're more than that. So that's the start of the curiosity. So, okay, so if I'm the observer of my thoughts, I can challenge myself today. I'm just going to notice what sort of thoughts I'm having. I'm going to notice what emotional reaction I'm having and make a choice about that. Okay. I'm going to notice where that emotion sits in my body,
yeah,
what it does to my body, why I respond to certain people or situations and not other people or situations. And I know people are like, oh, yeah, but I'm too busy in my day to day. But by having these tools, by having that capacity to step outside of yourself and observe yourself, you're actually helping yourself mitigate those stress levels, because then you're starting to notice, oh, this situation or this person, I tend to react in a stress
mm,
response with that situation, and I'm feeling it here. Okay, then you can approach it differently next time in a similar situation or with a similar person or with that particular person. Oh, that's right. I was doing this. Okay, what am I going to do? And it's always about a choice, and it's never about judgment, because we're creatures of habit. We
mm,
like what's familiar. We
yep,
need the comfort of familiar, even if we know that familiar isn't doing us any good. That's how we are. So when you become the observer of yourself, you give yourself the space and the grace to go, okay, today I'm reacting in this way. I'm observing that. I'm going to make a choice rather than coming from a place of habit and pattern.
mm,
I'm going to make a choice to do the horrible thing to myself that I do, that bad habit, but I'm choosing to do it. So I'm not going to judge myself for doing that thing. I'm taking my power by choosing to do it. And the next time you might choose not to do it,
yeah,
or you might choose and give yourself a limit. I'm going to sit in my pity party and wallow in that for an hour. And when an hour is up, I'm going to do whatever I can to get myself out of the funk, play some
yeah.
funky music, go for a walk, pet the dog, whatever it is your thing, that usually works that way.
And folks, another thing that Fiona is suggesting, and I know that I talk about myself with my own clients, is the fact that we're not saying you've got to carry your journal around all day. Start with, when you feel triggered, just take a breath and just pause, do that 10-second breath, count to 10, and just bring yourself back to center. You might need to put your hand on your heart and just become curious.
That's
And
it.
that is the best gift you could gift yourself if you're really wanting to make really big proactive changes. Just observe.
That's
And it
it.
might be observing, you have a series or a theme of particular thoughts, neither good nor bad. They're just thoughts. They come and go. Their thoughts are meant to be like the weather. And if you notice that there's a pattern, like, oh, geez, I've been negative Nancy today, it's what Fiona's saying, you can then choose to go, okay, I can cancel that, cancel that, cancel that. And you might find yourself, when you first start doing those things, that you're canceling a lot. But
Yes.
guess what? Here's the best thing about thoughts and feelings. You can have up to 60,000 thoughts a day.
Mm.
75% of them are negative, and of that 75%, 90% were from yesterday.
Oh, gosh, yes.
So imagine the change. If you start canceling, that's less garbage you're dealing with tomorrow. That's less negative you're dealing with tomorrow, because the brain doesn't want to have to use the executive function to find the reframe for positive. It will always default to the negative unless you start changing your programming.
That's it, absolutely. And one of the things that I suggest for people is to take it into the physical, so that they can then start to physically notice their thoughts.
Yeah.
So, a hairband around the wrist, or, one of those, I don't know, rubber thingies that people,
Yeah, the rubber bands. Yep.
whatever. Have one of them on your wrist, and every time you make that observation, oh, I'm having that thought, I'm having that feeling, and it's sitting here in my gut or in my head, or tension in my shoulders, you take it off and you put it on the other hand, and that's all you do. You're observing, and you're doing, and that then takes it out of the body, and it takes it into the physical, and it makes you more aware of that thought, that pattern, that behavior that you're having. And then you'll notice that, oh my God, I did that like 20 times today. You know what I mean? So then
Yeah.
you've got something that you can compare it to down the track. You could jot it down. Today I did 20, and then by the end of the week, oh, I only did it 5 times, or once, or not at all.
Not at all.
Show me.
Yeah.
So it's all about celebrating those little moments of wins and achievements.
One of the things that I find myself landing on is happiness and joy are not permanent visitors. They're transient. They come and they go. And so imagine if you fill your day with moments, if you become curious, or you decide to put on your glasses that filter in joy. Where can I find joy today? Imagine if you started your day when your feet land on the ground and you talk to your angels, to God, your deity, whatever. Today's going to be a great day. Good morning. Today is going to be a great day. Angels, put all the joy my way. Help me find more joy.
That's it.
And the universe just hears the recipe. Help me find more.
That's the thing. And that's, again, coming back to the black and white of the brain. What you're focusing is what, that's where your attention is drawn. The other stuff's happening, but you're not observing that. You're only observing what you wanted to observe. So if you want to observe the shit and the anger and the frustration and the annoyance, that's what you'll pick up, because that's what the radar is at. If you want to observe the joy and the peace and the love and the happiness, you'll see more of that. Both of them are happening at the same time equally, but it's where your attention lays. And as you said before, joy and happiness is fleeting. It comes and goes, but that's the same with anxiety and stress and frustration and anger.
That's true.
Back to that choice. Do I want to sit in the energy of that, or do I not?
Do I want to flick it away?
That's it.
Tell the audience, Fiona, please, about your Live Your Truth program.
Well, my Live My Truth is like, it's like hardcore journaling, really. If you're a journaler, love to journal your thoughts and ideas and feelings and all that, then Live Your Truth is absolutely up your avenue. It's really, it's a 6-module program which you can download and spend as much time as you want on it, with over like 100 or so different questions and things to direct you to unlayer yourself, unpack yourself, so that all of those labels that we came with, that come through our culture, our family, our upbringing, all of that you think you are, it helps you to, oh, okay, I'm looking at it from this perspective, or now I'm looking at it from this angle, and I'm looking at it for that angle. And it really prompts you to observe yourself in a way that you might not have thought of a way to look at it. And some of them are quite challenging. And I know that there's one particular module that people get to and they're like, I didn't like that one.
What's that one?
I think it's the 5th one. I can't remember. But it's about squeezing yourself through that little hole, and then coming out the other side and going, wow, there is so much more to me than what I had squeezed myself into.
So it's like birthing, rebirthing.
Yeah, in a lot of ways it is. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you find that most people will avoid discomfort if they can?
Oh, without a doubt. Well,
it's human nature. That's why you and I have jobs, is It's natural to want to avoid feeling uncomfortable. No one chooses to go, I want to feel anxiety today so I can work through it. It doesn't work like that.
No, but the funny thing is that people don't want to feel discomfort, but they will choose to sit in discomfort rather than address it head on and remove it.
Yeah,
And that's the thing that I find fascinating as part of our human psychology. People will do
absolutely.
so many things to avoid it. All the things that make them feel good. They'll do all of those things, and that's great because self-care is wonderful, and having the holiday and the hair and the nails and going out for dinner and the movies and all of those things are great. But if they're a tool to cover up the thing, the secret, the thing that you've got going on that you might not outwardly express to others, even though that those that you love deeply, then perhaps rather than, slathering on the feel good, dive into it and allow yourself just to face it, because there is, if we look at it from an energetic point of view, if there's a lot of chaos going on in your life, it's often an outward reflection of the chaos that's going on inside yourself. So if you allow yourself just that little moment of discomfort of having to look at it ever so briefly, because the modalities that you and I offer and so many of these other beautiful practitioners aren't there to walk through you through pain. They're there for you to go, right, I'm ready to let it go. And like that,
Yep.
often
Yep.
it is. If you're ready to let it go,
Yep.
then you'll let it go. If you're not, and you're the same, you'll get clients that will come that say they're ready, but they're not really ready. And that's okay, because that might mean that, another couple of months down the track, they might be ready to face that thing and let it go.
I think I like your analogy that people they know that there's something there, but yet they choose to sit in it. I have people who will fight the emotional release that comes with change
Yeah.
here on the table. Can't wait to get out of here. And then I will hear them start crying, and I mean banty howling in the car. And I'll send them a little text, are you okay? Make sure you drink plenty of water, go for a walk or have a sleep or whatever, da 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 da, because they're too embarrassed to have that type of cathartic release. We get to root cause, we find the issue, but
Yep.
it's so overwhelming, that thought that they'll lose control, that
Yes,
they shut it down.
absolutely. Because it's scary to be vulnerable.
It's terrifying.
All of us, I don't
Everyone.
like being vulnerable. I don't like people seeing my raw energy. And especially if, I'll get a client, well, they'll come for an RTT session. They're not someone I've seen ever. There's a trust that comes with that I'm going to open myself to you. I don't know who you are. How do I do that? Well, it's just allow. So I totally get, why in the car is a lot easier than in space.
They
But
often get a text that actually says, bravo, well done, keep going. Hold these points.
exactly what you need to do. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because we're not a society built on looking at those things. We're not a society built on holding each other in that space. We're get yourself busy, get ahead, all of the things that keep us separate from our true identity.
Exactly. Look at the garbage on social media. Be skinny. Here's 50 zillion ways to lose weight and be like Kim Kardashian, who, let's not even go there, but look a certain way and have certain eyebrows and have a tan. And why can't you just effing love yourself? Why can't you just accept you are who you are, and you are amazing just as you are? And I laugh at myself because I had a photo shoot last week and I was so uncomfortable. I was laughing my head off with the photographer. And she's going, everyone feels like this, even me. So I just started being silly. I went, right, I'm going to be a kid. And I made poses where I've got my arms crossed and my legs up on the table. And if I had the ability to stand on my head, I would have done that too, because it was just the discomfort of it. Anyway, I would like to.
Comfort is because people are afraid to be authentic, because when they're authentic, that's when they stand in their power.
Yeah.
And people are afraid of their own power.
Yeah.
So they'd much rather, chase the unrealistic body shape that they are not,
Yeah.
rather than be authentic. Well, this is who I am. This is
I'm happy to report I did a couple of deep breaths and then I channeled my inner Zoolander and we had some fun with it. But oof. But I came home and I went through a phase where I was right into journaling, but now I don't know about you, but I'll get my latest oracle cards out and I know you do card reading and for the
not as much. No, I have cards, but I'm not an actual card reader. Sorry, I just had
I
to.
always ask people, how do you read and interpret cards? Because I know I've got a certain way of doing it, but I always like asking other people. So tell me how, when you get a card deck, tell me what you do, and let's share with the audience how Fiona would interpret a card if that is appropriate for the session that you're running or whatever it is you're doing, like a live on social media, perhaps, or something like that. When you get your card deck out, what is it that you're looking at?
I think it's all comes back to your intuition.
Yeah.
What your body is telling you. When you do a card reading, or if someone goes along to see a psychic medium or whatever, they're not telling you something that you don't already know, you know.
Mm,
So it's not about them being more powerful or more knowing than you are. It's about them triggering something in you that you go, yeah, I knew that
mm,
has been going on in the background that you might sort of have listened to, but not necessarily have listened to. So it's about trusting that intuition, that gut feeling,
mm.
that heart stuff that you're talking, with the heart math stuff.
Yeah.
Your heart is another brain. Your gut is another brain. It is telling you things that defies logic. And
Yeah.
it's about allowing yourself, and that comes back to that being curious thing, allowing yourself to um, go, well, why am I feeling that? Why is that? Why is my body nudging me in that way? It doesn't make logical sense. Does it have to? We've got a society so built on knowledge that we've removed ourselves so much from our knowing, and they're completely different.
Yeah. I
There's
love that you've referenced knowing because for me, I'll pick up a card deck and, like you're saying, allow the intuition. I often choose cards that have either affirmations or words, but
yeah,
beautiful pictures. And I can look at a particular card and it will look different every time I look at it as my mood changes. I'm drawn to something else in the picture. I'm drawn to a word and what that then creates. So, what I'm hearing you say is intuition is that sensation you feel or that all knowing or where your eyes or ears are drawn to explore and
absolutely.
confirm.
Absolutely. And if you're someone who doesn't trust your intuition, we've all had that, oh my God, I had this feeling and I should have listened. In
Mm,
hindsight. So a lot of people, they've put so much emphasis on their intellect, and that's beautiful because that's part of who we are. And they
mm,
might not trust their intuition. So one of the challenges I offer to clients is to practice their intuition on something that has no emotional pull, that has no,
mm.
weight to it. Because when we really want something to go a particular way, we might override what our intuition is telling us, because then our brain goes, oh, hang on a minute, I've got
Do
an
you have
idea.
an example of how you would describe that to a client?
Well, I get them to do a particular thing, and I suggest to them, okay, pick something that you never buy in the supermarket. Go to the supermarket and muscle test. Now, everybody can muscle test, right? And if you don't know what these are, you can look these things up on the internet, because we have the wonderful internet. So, muscle testing, either doing the swaying method, which is a forward for a yes, or backwards for a no, or the other way around. Doing the finger pull. So, for
Yeah,
those people who can see me, either like that or like that,
yeah,
or using just one hand to press down and give yourself a yes or a no, and you register it that way, right? And then using whatever technique is comfortable for you. You go to the supermarket having picked an item that you never buy, so you don't know where it is in the supermarket. and you use whatever muscle testing technique you've chosen, or just trusting what your body is telling you. Okay, is it in an odd aisle or an even aisle? And then you'll get your answer. Okay, is it in aisle 2, 4, 6, 8, whatever?
Mhm.
All right, so you go to that aisle, you stand at the aisle. Is it on the left-hand side or the right-hand side of the aisle? Okay, is it at the front of the aisle where I am, or is it at the back of the aisle? Is it on the top shelf, middle shelf, bottom shelf? And see what happens.
This
And
is
when
how I find my house keys.
I used to do this all the time when the kids were little and they'd lost that, the one toy they had to have to sleep. I would muscle test and find where it is hidden in the house.
Yeah.
And, same with a book. If I couldn't find a book on the bookshelf, I would muscle test and narrow it down. And, it's about trusting what you're feeling, and using muscle testing just gives you, again, it takes it into the physical. And it's like, it's such a buzz when you get it right. And if you don't get it, it doesn't matter. Try again next time. And if it doesn't matter, it doesn't work, try again. Just allow yourself just to
It's
play
not
with
right
it.
or wrong, is it?
No, absolutely not.
Mm.
Absolutely not. So, I mean, we all have it. It's just about, like any other muscle, we just need to, exercise it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Now, your industry experience, you've been doing this authentic, being in your authentic power for quite some time. And how did you even get into this?
Oh, how did I get into it? I have a background as a teacher. So I've always had the yearning to interact with people and challenge people and stuff like that. Um, really don't know how I really got into it. When I was on maternity leave, I started running personal development workshops at the Warragul Community House,
Mm-hmm.
and did some stuff with the hospital, and it sort of grew from there. I think it's always been a part of who I am anyway. It just morphs its way into wherever we are
Yeah. Yeah.
at the time. So, you know, this is what's working for me at the moment. This is what gets me excited, offering the RTT and the emotion code, body code, and, offering coaching and stuff like that. That's what lights me up. So it's just, I guess it's an evolution of, the more I learn and discover about myself, the more I look at the bits of myself that I don't like, that I need to address, the bits that I need to let go of, the more I just love the idea of helping to guide people to that for themselves.
I love that, because most of the practitioners I know have had some form of lived experience that enabled them to go and do the study to then provide a service because it helped them feel so good. But what I love hearing about that is that you're one of those practitioners who continues to work on her stuff, so that when people come in, you go, oh, yeah, I get that. And the healing of the layers, and that, is there still more? Yes, damn it.
Always more, always more.
There's always more.
Always, because we're always spiraling around, and people go, yeah, but what's the point of healing then if you're still coming back? Because the intensity lessens, and the amount of, and I talk about this with people in terms of a wave, the troughs and the rises of the waves in the ocean. The dips become so much more shallower, and you
Yeah.
stay there less. So yes, there's ripples. We're always going to have ripples. We're here to learn. We're here to remember who we truly are outside of our story, right? So we're always going to have stuff to look at, but the depth of those troughs that we go into lessen, and we spend less time in them. So if we choose not to look in, that's okay. That's our soul's choice. But when we sink into stuff, it's going to be heavier. It's going to last longer. If we choose to look at it, then that means that we'll ride those waves so much easier.
Yeah.
And if emotions come, they can wash over us so much more quicker. I still have bad days. I still have days where my mind's saying shit to me and I believe it,
I think that's part of the 3D experience, isn't it? We're still human.
Absolutely.
We
And
just have a truckload of tools that help us get us out of the shit pile.
that's it. That's it. And anyone who projects that they've got it all together,
They're lying.
right? And if you're allowing your intuition to guide you, you'll pick it up. You'll feel it. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I can see you've got this gift or this ability or this talent, and that's great. And I'm going to utilize that. But I see you've still got stuff, and that's okay. It's not about judgment. It's about recognizing we're all human. We're all having this human experience. But, as the saying goes, we're all walking each other home. No one has the answers. No one's got the
Some of
answers.
us are staggering, some of us are crawling, some of us are sloughing, and that's okay.
Okay. But the
Oh,
beautiful thing about working on ourselves is that it has a ripple effect.
yeah,
When you address what you need to about you, that impacts your family, and that then impacts their friends and their work circle and people in your community.
yeah. The flow
That's
on
what
is
I
huge,
love
isn't it?
about this work.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. What a conversation we've had. I have 4 questions, unless there was something else you wanted to add.
Yeah.
Yeah, she says.
I think we've done
I I agree. I agree. Tell me what you're grateful for in life right now.
what I'm grateful for in life right now is time.
Mm,
A lot of time granted to me.
yep,
And it can be frustrating, but I see how so many people are running around like headless chooks and trying to do all of the things and be all of the things for everybody
yep.
and
Accept
themselves.
themselves.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I have been there, absolutely, but I'm in a space now where I am gifted time.
yeah,
And like I said, sometimes it's frustrating. It's like, oh, more of this.
yeah,
We're getting more of what we need, and I'm in that space. So,
yeah. Tell me what's the book on your bedside table right now?
what is it? I've just started a new one. I'm an eclectic reader, so I will read whatever I am drawn to, and it's often again trusting your intuition, right?
Mm,
I will pick up a book that either ignites some remembrance in my energy field, in my knowing, in my true person,
yep,
or it's just a fun novel that I'm reading for shits and giggles and laughs
yep,
and entertainment. So the one that I've just picked up is called Mango Hill. It's an Australian novel. Can't tell you who the author is,
yep.
and it's actually set here in Queensland. So
Nice.
that'll be nice to read.
Nice. Tell me what's the favorite way for you to manifest or create the life you want?
I'm not a great manifester. All these people that follow this particular method and these things will come to you. My life is more stretched out. So things
Yeah,
I might want something and then, the universe goes, well, what you need is so I really just trust my intuition.
yeah.
If it feels right in my body, then I will lean into it. If it doesn't, I'll step back.
Nice.
It's more about what I'm feeling. I manifest the feelings rather than manifest the material stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Fiona from Butterfly Lane, thank you so much for joining me today. I've loved this conversation.
Oh, thank you so much, Kaz. This has been fun.
We should do more of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Folks, there are daily inspirational posts on my social media pages. Simply search for me using the links in the show notes below. To grow my podcast audience, it helps me immensely if you can hit the follow button. I'd be so, so grateful. Also, thank you in advance for sharing this episode with your own change tribe. I hope it generates a fire of loving support and proactive discussion of how you can take charge of your journey steps through life, regardless of the challenges that experience brings you. Enjoy, and I will catch you on the next episode. Cheers for change.